very warm welcome to all of you joining us here in Singapore as the clock ticks down towards the green light. Anthony Davidson is here as usual to help take us through the action. And Ants, I've seen some questions on social media and other places about this current crop of F1 cars and why they're so much faster now, despite being significantly heavier than the previous generations of machines. Take us through that one.
I'd be happy to, Crofty. And simply put, it's a matter of grip. Now, that comes from two sources. You have what we call mechanical grip, which comes from the surface of the tyres sticking to the road. And these tyres are significantly wider now when compared to previous years, so they have the potential for more mechanical grip. Then you have the downforce, of course, which pushes the car into the road as the air moves over it, thus generating grip. And these cars have about 20% more downforce, which is more than enough to overcome the added weight.
What's up YouTube land, Xeno Gaming here with the next episode of my F1 2019 career mode. This time we are here for the Singapore Grand Prix around the Singapore track, which is located around the Marina Bay in Singapore. It should be a good Grand Prix here. I always enjoy racing around the Singapore track. I like the challenge of the walls being around. It always throws in a good action. Anyway, here we go today. We have some developments, new developments to the car, and the progress being made has been pretty good. So right now we're sitting 6th in the development tree. Let's get into qualifying.
Welcome along again to the Marina Bay circuit. The atmosphere is thick, not just with humidity, but with tension as well, as we get ready for qualifying here at the Singapore Grand Prix. I want to talk briefly about the strategy in these qualifying sessions. Anthony Davidson, how can a driver adjust their approach to gain those critical extra tenths of a second?
Well, qualifying isn't about adjusting your approach necessarily. It's more about trying to repeat a low fuel run that you've practiced prior to this session. You're looking for perfection on the lap, and that's hard to achieve if you're trying something new. There are some variables that can stand in your way, however. Track position or unexpected yellow flags, for example. Coupled with ever-changing track conditions, it's important to be out there at the right moment. But as a driver, you have to try and ignore these distractions and just keep your mind focused on that one perfect lap.
Welcome to qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix here. Very important qualifying, as we need to be able to qualify high up the grid in order to have track position. Very difficult to overtake around here. Really, your only opportunity is into turn 7 after the straight. So here is our first lap from qualifying today. We've got to really try and wring the neck out of this car, get as close as possible to the walls. Left a little bit of margin there, but this is only the first lap in qualifying, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. And we come across the line to set what I thought was a pretty competitive time of 1:37.4. Lucas Weber, you can see in 3rd place, has done a really good job so far in the Alfa Romeo in qualifying. But we are sitting 12th at the minute, and I looked down the times of what the guys below had done, and I thought we would be safe to get through to Q2. So I simmed to the end of the session. Unfortunately, I misjudged it. It was a really poor error of judgment on my part, and now we have qualified 18th and only ahead of the 2 Williams cars. So that's my fault. That's really unfortunate. It's going to be a poor starting position for the race tomorrow. So yeah, that's really poor from my part. And anyway, we're going to have to deal with it and start the Grand Prix from really far back anyway. So yeah, not good. We'll get into the race now.
As the sun sets over the South China Sea, the sport that never sleeps is alert and raring to go. Welcome, under the bright lights of the Marina Bay circuit, to another Singapore Grand Prix. It's a very long, very physical lap, this one, and really there's not much in the way of margin for error. So we have a bit of an endurance race for you tonight. The Marina Bay Street Circuit then has 23 corners, 13 to the left and 10 to the right, taking us a total of 3.1 miles around the landmarks of downtown Singapore. An average lap speed around here, just 107 miles per hour. And it's an absolute pleasure to be joined once again by Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the captain. They're starting towards the back of the field today in a car that is fast, so they'll be disappointed, won't they?
They'll have a sinking feeling as they look up from the cockpit and realise they're in a different postcode to the start line for sure. But the one positive they can hold on to is that the car is quick and they can make their way through the field.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Verstappen, Pierre Gasly and Perez, Norris, Butler, Hamilton. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Kimi Raikkonen, Albon, Ricciardo, Nico Hülkenberg and Grosjean, Stroll, Weber, the captain, and George Russell. Kubica and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Welcome to the Singapore Grand Prix. Here today we have a really interesting race on hand. Lewis Hamilton has a 5-place grid penalty due to an incident that actually occurred in practice. So I did see that in practice on one of the, I think it was FP1, had a collision with Lando Norris. Anyway, one-stop strategy today, which could be really tasty. Rain-affected race towards the end, so the weather could come midway through this Grand Prix. We don't know what's going to happen, so it's going to be really interesting. I thought about starting on the hards. Maybe that would get me to the rain period, but mediums we go because the hards might be just a little bit too slow around this track. Anyway, here we go, 5 red lights, but the lights didn't actually appear on our screen, and away we go. I kind of had to just predict when the lights went out and when the cars ahead moved, so we get a poor start, and Magnussen, who also had a grid penalty and started from the back, he dives down the inside. We managed to stay ahead of the 2 Williams cars into turn 3, and now we're looking at the back of Kevin Magnussen and Lucas Weber, who are going side by side. Maybe we can get involved. Magnussen's a little bit wide because Weber's got the position, and now we're into Weber's slipstream and hoping to get past Kevin Magnussen as they pull away from us on the straight. We're running a lot of aero. Can we go down the outside? No, we're going to switch back to the inside, and that should be position number 17. Yes, it is. So we're back to 17th, ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Can we get Weber? No, I decide to think better of it, as there is a long way to go in this Grand Prix, and a lot to think about. 31 laps. It's a really long race around here, probably the longest of the year, with the amount of brake zones. A 100% record of a safety car. Every single race at the Singapore Grand Prix has resulted in a safety car, so high chance of that today. As we go down the inside of Weber at the hairpin to catch him unawares, but he goes back around the outside, and the power of the Ferrari engine manages to keep him ahead off the exit of the corner. We didn't get the best exit ourselves. Can we go back up the inside? We're going to have a look, but he's closed the door. Good racing from Lucas Weber, good defensive work, and now we're going to have to think about it another time. Maybe into that hairpin again if the pack is still bunched up potentially. So we're just going to have to follow through this section. No overtaking, one line. Really all you can do. You can't really go side by side into these corners. It's really just too tricky to manage to do that. But we can have maybe a go into turn 1. But we're not really that close to Weber. But Weber is pretty close to Lance Stroll, as Sebastian Vettel leads this Grand Prix to open his account and maybe extend his championship lead. He's in a strong position in the Ferrari, with Bottas in second and Leclerc in third, as we make a huge dive at Weber, but we go off way too deep on the brakes, and we're going to have to think about another potential move another time. So now moving on to lap 4, nothing really happened, still just kind of following Weber. Magnussen still behind. You can see that the McLaren and the Red Bull have pulled away, so someone is holding up a huge train of cars here. As we go down the inside of Lucas Weber on lap 4, he is a bit slow into the hairpin. This time we squeeze him out a bit more, have a bit more track position, and are able to gain the position. He's got the slipstream. We're going to have to defend into the hairpin, and we do so we're going to just go drift that little bit wide. He's not going to go into the wall, and that's P16. So we make up a spot here in the traffic around Singapore. Really hectic start to this Grand Prix. Just an absolute train of cars. My teammates in there as well, ahead of the two Renaults, who had a really good qualifying for where their car really is performing. So next up is Lance Stroll, who is in a quicker car than us, but he can't qualify, and that's why even though he's got a quick car, he starts further down the grid. Anyway, we've got a really good run to him. We're really close behind. He's going to defend in turn 1. We're going to dive around the outside potentially. Yes, we're there. He's left us the space, and we're going to go past Lance Stroll. We leave him the space for turn 3 to make sure he doesn't turn us around. But we're through. So that's now P15. Lance Stroll not showing his best racecraft strategy there, or skills there. Now, we're on the back of Nico Hulkenberg on lap 6. We're potentially having a look at him. He's got a bit of a defensive line into the fast right-hander, and now we have a much better run out the corner. Our Honda Power engine should perform well against the Renault car, but Hulkenberg defends into turn 7, and now we're still got very close. We're very close. We're going to dive up the inside into turn 8, and that is P number 14 for now. So now next up is his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, and we're making some progress through the chaotic pack. And I can tell you the reason for the pack is Max Verstappen. Actually, he's the reason for the pack. As Grosjean and Raikkonen going side by side in the middle sector, so this is really slowing up the pack. We are going to make a move on Daniel Ricciardo down the inside. Absolutely beautiful move, late move under the brakes, and we do to Ricciardo what he does to so many other drivers on the grid. So now moving to the next lap 7 out of sector 1 here, coming into turn number 5. We've got Albon, who's now defending his position. We seem to be getting a really good run out of the first turn 3 there, and it really seems to be helping us set up our moves into turn 7, as we're going to go down the inside of Albon much later on the brakes, as now you can see Grosjean getting past Max Verstappen. I don't know, he must have a broken front wing, some sort of car issue, because he's holding everybody up at this moment in time, as now Romain Grosjean will start to pull away, as cars that have already overtaken Verstappen, including the two McLarens, have already pulled away. So now Sebastian Vettel is out of this Grand Prix here on lap 7. So big news, the man who was leading this Grand Prix, the man who is leading the championship by 21 points, is now out. This is going to have huge ramifications on his championship. This is brilliant news for Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas, as they are the two men chasing him down in this title fight. So really bad news for Ferrari fans and Sebastian Vettel fans. He is out of this Grand Prix, as Max Verstappen is still going really slowly through the third sector. He's finally decided to pull into the pit lane on lap 7, as Vettel there pulls off to the side of the road at the last corner. And that is going to mean tatters. What's that going to mean for his championship? If Leclerc wins this Grand Prix, that could mean that Sebastian Vettel loses the lead of the championship for the first time all year. Now, moving on to lap number 8, we're chasing down Kimi Raikkonen, and we're going to have a look. We're going to go deep under the brakes, try and gain as much time. We've locked the rear brakes. We're into the wall. We're out.
That was a big one. Confirm you're okay, please.
Unbelievable. We have crashed at the Singapore Grand Prix on lap 8. Chasing down Kimi Raikkonen, went a little bit too deep on the brakes, locked the rears. The car slid mid-corner, had too much speed, and we put it in the wall. Ricciardo hit us as well, and he damages a bit of his front wing, so that's the race.
What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, time management probably played quite a large role in the outcome of this one. As ever, it's not just about speed, it's all about maintaining that speed consistently over a stint, over a race distance. So being able to keep up the lap times while still being smooth on the controls and gentle on the tyres, that's really where the race was won today.
Here come our winners now. A thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again. And now let's take a look at the driver's standings. And with today's impressive result, Charles Leclerc steps into the championship lead. Now let's discuss, Ant, who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
Well, I certainly didn't have any complaints with Kevin Magnussen's performance today. Incredible driving.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. It was a tough race for our championship leaders who lose ground at the top of the table. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, that was certainly an incredible weekend of racing. Be sure to join myself and Ant for more exciting Formula One action soon.
That was the Singapore Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc has won the Singapore Grand Prix and taken the lead of the championship. Valtteri Bottas wasn't able to take advantage, and with only a poor performance, we retire on lap 8 with a poor bit of driving from me. So I apologise to anybody, but can't help what happens. As you can see, Leclerc takes a 5-point lead in the championship, Bottas 17 points behind. Hamilton and Verstappen 51 points back, so we'll see if they can make a late challenge, either of them, if they get some wins to end the year. So yeah, we'll see what happens now, as poor race from me in the end of the day. Albon didn't manage to score points. So anyway, moving on now, R&D tree. We are going to go for a chassis update to hopefully improve the car for the Russian Grand Prix next time out. So that will hopefully see a little bit more performance come to the car for the next one. And I don't know if I show it here, I don't know if I do or not, but we have got the as you can see, the engine stuff is what we're going to be working on to try and save as many engine bits for the rest of the to consolidate parts. So that's been today's Grand Prix around Singapore. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next Grand Prix in Russia. Goodbye.
Alright, listen up everyone. They've announced that the technical regulations are changing for next season. Now there's a risk a lot of our hard work could be undone if we're not careful. So let's figure out how to mitigate this. Drivers, take a look at the developments we have and let us know what you want to invest in protecting. Alright everyone, let's get on top of this.